conversation with him Wednesday of this week. And 22 years appraising properties, he's got a really good handle on what he's talking about. So he told me when rates first moved up about a month or so ago, there was a little slowdown in purchase business. Refi business bumped. And now this week, he is slammed like he was last year. And he said it's still skewed more heavily towards purchases, which I found fascinating because we're all saying it's a scary time to buy or refi because rates have gone up, but he's still seeing a robust market. So I use his data because it's the most forward-looking data. By the time it gets to the real estate agent or to me, it's already under contract and the decisions have already been made, but the appraiser is kind of on the front of the deal. So anyway, hopefully that's helpful, Terry. I hope that answers your question. Owing more than it's worth, I wouldn't be afraid of it. We'll dig into that on the other side of this. And it's certainly not giving the bank the ability to take the property from you. So on the other side of this break, we'll dive into more questions, but you can get those to us at 561-291-8569. That's the Anytime Hotline, 561-291-8569. Hey, it's Mark Eitel, host of the Mr. Mortgage Show. You hear me all the time talking about the need to have the very best team representing you in a real estate transaction. And that starts with a really great agent. If you've got a great agent, that's awesome. But if you don't, check out www.reallyGreatAgents.com. There you'll find the best of the best, regardless of the city they work in or the brokerage they work for. www.reallyGreatAgents.com. www.reallyGreatAgents.com.
Here's another 5-star review.
As a realtor, I have a bunch of mortgage brokers to choose from, but I prefer to work with Mark and his Mr. Mortgage team. In this crazy market, there is no room for error, especially on the mortgage side. Mark's team moves fast, keeps everybody in the loop, and makes things happen. They always give my clients a great deal and take the time to walk them through every step of the process. When you're considering a lender, I encourage you to talk to Mark Eitel and the Mr. Mortgage team.
It's not every day that you need an appraisal, whether it's for a divorce settlement, estate planning, or maybe you're appealing a tax assessment, or you just want to make sure you have adequate coverage in your property insurance. When you need a certified appraisal, turn to my friends at SOFLappraisal.com. That's SOFLappraisal.com. Peter and his team have been appraising properties here in South Florida for decades. SOFLappraisal.com. And tell them you heard this on the Mr. Mortgage Show.
Are inflation and everyday expenses eating into your retirement income? Maybe you've considered a reverse mortgage and have unanswered questions like, do I still own my property? Can the bank kick me out? What happens when I die? Can I still leave my house to my kids? These are all great questions. Visit www.moreaboutreverse.com to learn more. That's www.moreaboutreverse.com. www.moreaboutreverse.com.
Welcome back to the Mr. Mortgage Show. Call us now, 561-291-8569.
All right, we are back. My name is Mark Eitel. I host the Mr. Mortgage Show every week right here, same bat time, same bat channel. And I hope you have a pen handy because I want you to write this down. 561-291-8569 is the Anytime Hotline. And you can use that during the week. If you have questions or comments, that pushes to my office when we're not in the studio. So someone will be happy to answer your questions. And check us out online, www.mr.mortgage. Neverever.com, just type in mr.mortgage, hit enter, and you'll find us. And then also I encourage you to check out the Facebook page at The Mr. Mortgage Show. So you can search Facebook, The Mr. Mortgage Show, and you'll find the new and improved Facebook page where we're dropping a lot of links to all the data that you hear us reference during the show. So armed with that data, you're going to make better real estate decisions and mortgage decisions for you and your family. So that's our goal of the show. We had some really interesting questions so far. So before we move forward, I just kind of want to recap it. I know we started talking during the first segment about where we are, right? Are we in a bubble? Is this bubble about to burst? Does buying a home now make sense? I mean, should I sell now, cash out, and go live in a tent and grow vegetables in my backyard? There's a lot of people that have a lot of concern about where we are in housing, interest rate wise, inflation wise. and recession-wise. So hopefully some of the questions that we covered during the show answer that, because they were pretty similar. But I want to dig into those things right now before we move forward. So here's one super interesting thing that nobody seems to be talking about. So as most of you know, I was originating loans since 1999. So during, through, and after the bubble bursting of, the late 2010 swing there, 2008, 9, 10. Here's one distinct difference that nobody's talking about. Back then, adjustable rate mortgages made up over 40%. Most of them were interest-only ARMs. So an adjustable rate mortgage in 2006 or 7 allowed you to qualify for more home than you should have ever been qualified for, because they were using the low introductory rate, often with an interest-only component, to qualify you. So over 40% of the purchases were made with that very speculative loan product. This time, right now, today, less than 1% of the purchase mortgage market is any ARMs, adjustable rate mortgages. So what happened back then was a lot of people didn't want to sell. They believed the appreciation cycle was going to continue. But those adjustable rate mortgages, that fixed payment period was most often 2 years. They adjusted, the payments went up, the interest-only period expired. They couldn't afford the property. They had to sell. And here's a really interesting thing, another component of this that people aren't talking about. Back then, we had artificial appreciation. And by that, I mean one person buying multiple properties. And they weren't buying duplexes and fourplexes. They were going in to Black Diamond and Olympia and buying $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 new construction homes. That's not a rental home. That's not an investment property. That's a speculative flip. But they were doing that 6, 7, 8 times with these adjustable rate mortgages. So when all of those ARMs came due, that person was in a jam. They had to dump 8 properties at once, 7 properties. We're not seeing that. We're seeing, mom, dad, and 2 kids fighting to get that very first single family home for themselves. They're not buying 5 or 6 of these things. So my point in all that is there's no adjustable rate mortgages that are going to affect people's payment. And most people own 1, sometimes 2 properties. So there's not artificial demand. And why I'm sharing this is they can afford their homes where they are now. They were underwritten with today's interest rate. They put the down payment down. Oh, and here's another thing. Today, people are either paying cash or they're using a fixed rate mortgage product. So there's no fear of a mortgage adjusting. There's no fear of a payment increasing. They're not going to be forced to sell their property. So I throw that out there, and I would love to deep dive that with anybody. Give me a shout, 561-291-8569. I'd love to have a conversation with you around that. Check out the Facebook page, The Mr. Mortgage Show, The Mr. Mortgage Show on Facebook, or www.mr.mortgage. So very different fundamentals in the market. There's no big adjustment period that's going to come due and knock all these people out of their house. And lastly, they're going to lose their house last. They're going to give up the car and the credit card first. So I don't think a bubble is going to burst anytime soon. That's it. That's all I got. You hear the sirens. Thank you for spending some time with us here at the Mr. Mortgage Show.
That's a wrap. Join Mark Eitel next week for more thrilling, edge-of-your-seat discussions about real estate and mortgages right here on the Mr. Mortgage Show.